Good morning, everyone. You are listening to Blue Collar Tribe Podcast. I'm your host, Splash. I have Tom. Oh, I'm going to murder your last name. I don't even want to try it. Droste? Drost. I want to pronounce like it's French. I don't know why.
Droste.
Droste. Un croissant.
Mais oui.
See, I could get a croissant if I went to France. We're in season 9 of the podcast, everyone. I am back. This is going to be the first or second episode of season 9. I will admit I had a hiccup. I actually pre-recorded 10 to 12 episodes and I said they were season 10. So if you're listening to this or you're a new listener or an existing listener, just know my shit is not edited. I do it intentionally. We're blue collar. People are going to hear all the tools going on in the background. I just don't care. And my sponsors love it because it gives a little bit of personality, which if you know me, that I don't even know what day of the week it is. I'm you know what, Tom, I got to tell you, I almost had to cancel today because my daughter's like, Dad, Friday's the first day of school. I'm like, wait, school starts this week?
Now?
I know. It was like 2 weeks ago. You were just going back to school.
What happened to September, right?
I know. My wife and I were talking about that. Like, it's such a weird,
same here.
thing. I'm like, wait, what? Okay, whatever. Get out of here. The house will be quieter. So, Tom, you're from Rocket Estimate. You are the CEO.
I am.
I have had the pleasure of going on your podcast. I've had an affiliate, Chris Shank, on mine. I know about your business. I'm actually excited about I'm always excited about people I have on, but those that, if you're building your blue collar contractor business, one thing about me that you should know is I talk a lot of shit, but I talk from my experiences. And I was afraid of systems. I was afraid of numbers. I was afraid of the things that we're going to talk about with Tom. So as we talk about these conversations, like today's conversation is know your numbers. And honestly, I'll let you give your background, but before you do, I want to set a yellow brick road, if I may say, on this. You know, like right now we're in black and white. We're going to get to some color commentary here. But as a business owner, I've learned, and if this hurts, it just means that you're guilty as I am.
Yeah.
We're really good at doing the labor work. Some of us are really great salesmen. Some of us are really good at putting numbers together. We're good at hiring people. We're good at having customer conversation. We're good at resolving things. We're good at knowing our numbers and to pay taxes. But with all that being said, you're good at one of those things. Everything else, you pretty much suck at it.
Right.
Like, I've never met a successful business owner that's like, yo, I do everything. And they're making, I'm just going to say 6 figures for themselves, not their business, but for themselves.
Right.
I know you know what that means. We'll talk about that. But Tom, now that people know, like, we're going to have this conversation, unbuckle, put your hard hat off to the side. Let's get into why it's so important, but where you come from. What is a little bit of your background so people know why we're talking about financials and screenshots?
My background will explain it all.
Let it go. Spill the tea, as the kids say these days. I think that's the saying, right?
So I started out as a staff accountant after I went to Bentley College, of accounting school. Made it through 3 years of the hardcore accounting, which is good. It got up to a thing called managerial accounting. That was pretty good. That was useful stuff that I knew I'd be able to use and whatever. Then they went to advanced accounting. I was like, nah, this is not what I really want to do with life. Stuff so far has been good because, again, you can apply it to other things you're going to do. And so anyway, graduated, took a job as a staff accountant, did that for a couple of years. At an epiphany moment where I looked out and saw my boss's head, my boss's boss's head, and my boss's 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 head lined up like the stars all aligned. And I said, I don't want to wait that long to be that guy who's like 3 steps over. Quit my job as an accountant and get a job at a computer store. no computer programming knowledge or experience or
Was
anything.
it Circuit City?
No, it's a little local place here
Oh,
called
okay.
Computer Town in just in Salem, New Hampshire. So
Oh,
little
okay.
little. So I actually had 2 or 3 stores, but it was a good time for that. And I ended up helping people use their computers. And oddly enough, my accounting experience was really valuable because a lot of what they were trying to do with it had, numbers behind it and had accounting purposes behind it. And yeah, I got hooked on it. I stayed at that job for a year and then started a consulting company and ran that company for about 25 years and then started Estimate Rocket about 8 years ago. So it's been an interesting experience. My whole career has been basically helping people who needed software, apply it to their businesses and have accounting value. So I do appreciate numbers. I'm not like your tax accountant. I'm your practical accountant where, hey, these are the things you need to know to run your business. And that's really where a lot of our software is about, estimating and scheduling and workflow and job costing. But my focus behind it is on making sure that the numbers have integrity so that when you're looking at the numbers that you can see in various places that they're meaningful and you can say, oh wow, that number goes down, that's a big problem. If that number's going way up, that's a good problem. So that's
When
kind of
you
my background.
say when you created Estimate Rocket, what two part question.
Sure.
How did you get into the blue collar scale of thinking? Because if you're at a computer store, like you're probably not getting a lot of blue collar people in. But why estimating?
So estimating was the start. And when I started, the company, Estimate Rocket's parent company, if you will, it's all me, is called Logical Engine. And we started off writing kind of one-off software for people. I had some consultant friends who had clients who needed help with things. And they happened to be in concrete repair business. And so at the time, this was probably like 8 years ago, there was nothing out there for like literally nothing out there for small businesses to take out in the field and be able to do an estimate on the fly and produce a document for the customer and then give them an invoice, like nothing. So we wrote something specific for them, mainly for the estimating part. That took off well for them. It was just a tablet, it was a native app. You couldn't share data, you couldn't do anything. It was just, like your typical, standalone app. And we started realizing because people in the concrete repair business knew people in the foundation repair business, and they had friends that were painters and roofers and all kinds of old different trades. And they started saying, wow, this is cool. You can take this out, you can do an estimate. And that's really that was the genesis for Estimate Rocket. Was we realized this one-off thing that we had done for the concrete lifting company had a lot of potential, and I saw the potential for it from some of the other business solutions that I'd created in the past, and we just expanded it. We turned it into a web app so you could have multi-user and sharing and just kept expanding to try to keep expanding the capabilities of it in a logical way to create this end-to-end solution that really does everything from lead to paid.
It's interesting when I hear people who aren't in the blue collar world. What I mean by that is
Yeah.
the saying is like you're not turning wrenches or whatever. It's not to say that you don't know how to do that. It's just we blue collar men and women, just like anything. And maybe it's just because I'm in this realm. I used to work white collar, so I know, and I did it for years.
Sure.
It's in sales, in account management, but blue collar culture is very much like in your face, like you don't know, so why are you in my space? And I think there's hesitation from
Sure.
us as whether we're employees or business owners, but typically we're talking about business owners. No offense to the employees, but like
Right.
they're not worried about the numbers. What they're worried about is every Friday is that paycheck in their account. That's all they care about.
Yeah.
But when you're the business owner, there's so many different. I use the term octopus. Like you can't be an octopus. And I've said that to Chris Shank, and we've had wonderful conversations about that. But like, when I realized in the business realm, like, you can't be the all with person, you need to hire out. So
Right.
when I'm starting to invite, and I'll just not say me, but as blue collar men and women invite, Rocket Estimate or
Mm-hmm.
third party softwares. I don't know what other word you'd use. You're probably more technical,
Sure.
aware of that. But like, we'll just call third party softwares into their business. They really see it succeed. So to know that the reason I asked is like, where did this start? Like, you cascaded. You
Right.
literally formed a river into the blue collar world because you saw the need.
Right.
And I think it's brilliant. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. Everything goes full circle. I will say that the first application I ever wrote when I originally quit and went to the computer store was an estimating program for a plumbing company. And we're talking, I'm going to really date myself here, but we're talking dual floppy drives in an Osborne computer is what this thing ran on.
Kids that don't
connected to
know,
nothing.
if you don't know what a
Yeah,
floppy disk is, go ask your mom and dad. And if you're old enough not to know what that is, I'll put a floppy disk video on TikTok at the Rose Splash. Did you know? Have you seen the meme? There's a meme going around, and it's recently, like, some of those floppy disks are selling for hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Imagine. Yeah.
Because of
crazy.
the software on them.
Yeah. Wow.
Like, I saw someone have an Oregon Trail, like one of the original Oregon Trail floppy disks. Yeah. That's like the very first video game, kids. I mean, there's Atari, but like on computers, you had Oregon Trail. It was like almost $700,000. It's like, why didn't I keep my floppy disk? I had a hell of a ton of them.
Wait until I tell Kathy about this, because only recently I was forced to get rid of a whole raft of stuff. Well, she's like, why are you keeping that?
Tom put it to work. Say, listen, you cost me my retirement. Okay, so you helped a plumber out.
Yeah.
In your experience, I generally, for those that know my podcast up to season 9, I don't do staged questions. I will say this time I do. I actually do. There's I think I maybe have 10. I know we joked when we first started. Like, there's hundreds of podcasts out there. I think I'm over 250 right now. Maybe 10 of them I've had staged questions. And what I mean by they're questions that you don't know them. I know we've kind of had a little bit of email interaction with someone within your business line. Like, hey, these are some things we want to talk about. The reason that I have these questions, and I'm glad that your guys sent them to me, is because, one, it gives us direction, because Splash needs a little bit of direction. I'm a little wild card. I know that. 2 is I really, now that I'm not a painter and I'm not contracting, I'm still licensed. So just don't you worry. I could always come out of retirement, kids. Don't challenge me to a paint contest or something. But no, for real life, I realize a lot of the mistakes I made as a business owner. A lot. I've had a lot of time to meditate, to think through, read books. And I don't even mean self-help books. I mean, I do read a lot of books like that. And I know you're an avid reader too. It's been told that you're an avid reader. And so in that span, I'm like, what can I do to better the trades? And this is it. I want people to know that there's so many. We're just going to, for this podcast, we're going to just call them third-party applications. That's what Rocket Estimate is. It's an application into your business. Or you could say it's your new employee. I like to say it's a new employee because, the last, year I've helped a lot of businesses on the backside of social media. And one of the things I tell everyone is that if you are a business owner, you need to hire a position, and this is for another podcast, unless you want to get into it, Tom, we can. Your social media is its own employee, and you need to treat it like that. So when we talk about Rocket Estimate, when we talk about, all the things that we need to, with Estimate Rocket, and I've seen your name vice versa, Rocket Estimate and Estimate Rocket. Like when you talk about those things, you need to understand like this isn't for the business owner to pay more money out.
Right.
It's actually for you as the business owner to make money in.
Yeah.
And you have to understand this. So let's get into know your numbers. You've seen what I think has been around at least 6 years that I know of.
Yeah.
I could be wrong.
6
I'm
to
not
7.
sure.
Yeah.
Pretty close.
About 7, but 7 was probably 5 customers deep.
The first 2 years, you're just treading water. Like, okay, is this really going to work?
Right. Why did we do this?
Why, from the perspective of you helping businesses, the contractor, why is knowing your numbers so important? And to you, what is know the numbers, your numbers?
Yeah, that's a good question. And by the way, it depends at every stage of your business, right? So, when you're one person, there's certain numbers that are really important to you that you really should have a handle on. Doesn't mean you need to look at them every single day, but there's probably a few that you need to look at weekly and some that you need to look at monthly. And if you don't, it's like your scorecard. It's like playing golf or bowling or, pick a sport where there's no scorecard. There aren't any, right? Everybody needs to have some sort of scorecard or metric that they're using that says, okay, we're doing good, or, oh shit, we gotta make some changes here. And that's the fundamental truth is you need to know something about your numbers. You don't need to know everything about them, but there's some numbers you need to know. And again, they may be different for different companies depending upon where you're at. But for most companies, in my estimation, especially at the earlier stages, you better know where your cash position is and be thinking about it so that hey, I countless times have waited, months and months and months to get a bill from a landscape, person, or I name the trade, and yet every now and then I'll get one who comes up. You do the work, they give you a quick way to pay them, they get their cash. Knowing that stuff and having a handle on that stuff becomes so key, because if you don't, then you're worrying about that all the time. Oh shit, how am I gonna buy groceries this week? How am I gonna buy my materials? How am I gonna? And you can avoid that by keeping a handle on cash. Now, as you get bigger, you'll build up some cash reserve, and watching that on a daily basis will become less and less important. Weekly, monthly, but you still got to look at it. But again, it's not you're like, oh boy, am I going to meet? And then as you get people, am I going to meet payroll this week? Right? Is that like the biggest angst there is for any business owner? Trust me. And fundamentally, my business started out as very similar to a service contractor. I sold hours, and I had to keep billing those hours and make sure that the cash kept flowing. And eventually, as we created a product, then it switches a little bit. And then you're more selling than you are, creating hour by hour. But I spent probably 10 years in the contracting business for software, and I understood, and the accounting. The good thing about my schooling was it did give me a foundation enough to understand. Oh yeah, these are some important things that we need to know about.
I want to dive deeper into the numbers in the sense of this. Let's talk to the smaller businesses right now.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of my listeners are smaller businesses. And,
sure.
and I know I got bigger. I know who my listeners are. I mean, I don't know who all 10,000 plus of them are, but like for the most part, I kind of have an idea. But a huge majority of my listeners, just based on the DMs that I get, are smaller businesses, new business owners that are venturing out into the world. I speak at a lot of to contractors, and a majority, I would say, of 70% of the people that come to events that I speak at are 3 years to new in their business. So what numbers are important? And this is, I don't care whether you have one employee, because we all start as one employee, but the goal, let's be real, the goal for any contractor, any service like that, is to be golfing and let your employees do the work. Like, I'm going to call it out, or hunting, whatever your thing is. Like, that is a goal. And it's very reachable. But what what numbers? Like, what is there 5? Is there 4? Like,
Yeah.
what things would you say? Hey, if you're coming out of the gate, you left
Yeah.
Juan's painting, and now you're starting your own paint business. What numbers do you need to know? Like, not like
Yeah.
you can't think about, but you absolutely, pardon my French, but you fucking have to know. Like, you have to know
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. I think you need to know what it is, the thing that makes your business tick, right? And it's similar for everybody, but if your product is hours, then you got to know how many hours you're selling, and you got to know that you're billing for them, right? So
When you
you have to.
say selling your hours, from your
Mhm.
perspective, because I think I may have it different, but what does that mean for you?
So what that means for me is, even though you're not charging your customer by the hour, your limited resource is the physical number of man hours that you can put into a job. So you bid the job, you give the customer a price of $5,000, $2,000, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
You got to that number somehow. Now maybe it was, pulled out of the nether regions, or
Usually
you
where
have
it
a
is
system
pulled
for doing
from.
it. Yeah. And or you have some sort of system that you're using for it, and that's great. But that system fundamentally has to be built on some time element, because it takes you time to perform the work, right?
Yeah.
And some people do it by days, some people do it half days, some people do it by the hour. And ultimately, the goal is to build a system that makes it reliable and predictable and repeatable to do that. But in the early stages, it doesn't matter how you come up with that number. That number is limited by the number of physical hours in a day you have, or by the total number of hours you have available based on the size of your team, right?
Yeah.
So you need to know on a week to week basis, at least, you need to know, do I have enough work for next week to achieve the number that I need to achieve for sales dollars to keep the ball rolling. That's on to me, that's kind of on the simplest
That
level
is a
of
it
what you
is a
need to
very
know.
that is a very simplified. If you don't agree with what I'm telling, what I say,
Yeah.
please, I love that. I don't mind the devil's advocate conversation,
Yeah.
because, again, I'm coming from a position where I am fairly good at sales. I could go.
Yeah.
I'm still
Right.
getting phone calls to paint houses. I'm just not doing it, and I should not have done this. Just this year in 2023, I'm at over $200,000,
Mhm.
and I'm not even marketing.
Right.
That's just me telling people, hey, I'm not painting.
Yeah.
But my ego is like, what do you need painted? Tell me. But to be truthful, though, I actually send them to other customers.
Sure.
But I want to know, and my wife's like, "How do you know?" I'm like, "Because I just want to know." Like, oh, wait, this is an exterior, so I'll Google Map. Like, oh, okay, I would have bid $8,000 on that, because I'm
Right.
at that place now where I know, like, okay. But I want to
Yeah.
dummy this down a little bit deeper, because I love this conversation, and it's not a conversation people have. I love social media. I'm a social media whore. I will be the first person to call myself that, and I don't care if you label that as me. I I just am. You know,
Yeah.
one thing I admit I am part of is a lot of Facebook groups. I am not a
Yeah.
huge fan of Facebook, but there's importance to it when it comes to groups.
Yeah.
I'm in blue collar groups. I'm either in blue collar groups, fishing groups, or MMA groups. Those are like my three niches that I'm in Facebook groups. I saw this post. I should have printed this off knowing that we were going to have this conversation. This guy posted that he just did a $16,000 job. I'm going to fluff
Yeah.
the numbers here a little bit, but let's
Yeah.
have this conversation, because the comments are more important to me than what he said.
Right.
And I love that he was willing to share this. That's why I like these Facebook groups. He said, just got finished with his $16,000 job, total hours, 63 hours, total
Yeah.
manpower, 5 people, material was 1,600, hours worked in to pay the employees was 5,600. Profit for the business was like 7,200. That may not equal 16, but that's roughly the
Yeah.
numbers that he was at.
Sure.
I don't know if you're part of any of these groups, but the comment section was interesting. And if you're not, I should invite you in these groups,
Yeah.
because I think you could help.
I'd love to be in there. Yeah.
So here's what I was seeing in the comments. I need to land a job like that. Oh, you're charging way too much. How did you get to your net profit of $7,000. That's over a 55% profit. Someone did the
Right.
math for him. That was like, I think it was like 58%. That's 58% profit for your business. And I mean, go on
Not
with
quite.
go on with it. No, well, no. He was
Right.
he
Yeah.
it was in that in his numbers. It did break out to about 60% was, again, I'm only going off what was in the post.
Right.
It was 1,500 roughly for material, 56 hours, so $5,600
Yeah.
went to his employees. So I think he had 5 employees,
Yeah.
and he did the hours. I think it was like 40 hours or something. It took him a week. I know that.
Yeah.
And so he had $7,000 left over that went to his business as a net profit.
Gross profit.
Sorry, gross profit. Thank you. And the comments, they were like, a lot of people were dumbfounded. Like, how do you make that for yourself? Well, clearly, this guy's been doing this a long time. He's a good
Right.
salesman. He knows the quality of his work. I'm going to tell you something that I was not good at as a business owner. He lets his employees shine. He doesn't control them. That is one of the hardest things for us.
Really hard.
It is hard.
Me too. Everybody.
It is. It's our ego. It's our baby.
Yeah.
Your name's on it. It says Estimate Rocket, but it's Tom's.
Yeah.
Splash
Yeah.
Painting said Splash. We all have it. But that goes back to the octopus conversation. But when I saw these numbers and I saw these posts, I was like, great job. Awesome. What really was concerning was a lot of these people don't know numbers. They don't
Right.
understand.
Right.
So back to what you were saying about how it's important
Yeah.
to know like how many hours. My idea, my template was always this. Every person on my team was worth $50 an hour. Now I'm going to dumbify this. This was just the way that
Sure.
I did it. Okay.
Yeah.
Every employee was $50 an hour. Now I live in Utah, and I want to give these are hard. If you're listening to this episode, understand this is the way that I did my business. It was successful. I'm going to share this though, but you need to know these things. One, I'm in Utah. I have workman's comp. I have to pay workman's comp. I have to pay into it. Whether we have a claim or not, I got to pay into it. I have insurance I'm required to pay. Because we were doing government jobs and commercial jobs,
Ooh.
I had to have a certain amount of insurance. So the way that I did it, and Tom, if you don't agree, I'm okay with the conversation because I want to know how you feel because you're smarter at this than I am. I said, okay, if I'm paying Chris $25 an hour, that was like a top guy.
Yeah.
And I'm up 50. You're really paying when you look at workman's comp and insurance. That $25 an hour guy is actually costing you here in Utah. It's $32.50. Like I'm just giving you basic numbers.
Sure. Absolutely.
Now I didn't know this for years until my wife took over the books. I said, hey, we got too big. I don't know what I'm doing. You're way smarter than I am. Can you look at this? And she's like, dude, this needs to be, why are you bidding? And so I had to break it down. And so I said, look, every person's $50 an hour.
Right.
So then I would say, okay, but part of that mistake was, and again, I know we want to talk about new employees, but or new businesses. If you're a new business owner, you need to figure out how long it takes you to do the job. I think that's the very first thing when you start a business. I would tell that on a bullet point of 12 things that are important. This would be like number 2 or 3, in my opinion. One, I'll give you mine. And if you want to add or move them around, I'm fine. One, you need to reinvest back in your business. You need to tell your family immediately the day you know you're going to start your business and you got the license, you say, hey, this money isn't to be spent.
Right.
We're going to pay the bills as we can.
Yeah.
No loans, but I have to reinvest. I need to make sure my truck works. I need to make sure I have tools to show up and complete the job. Now listen, Harbor Freight is a good store. Now you all know I'm a Milwaukee guy, but it's okay. Do Ryobi, do DeWalt, do the lower level companies. Yes, I just did DeWalt's lower level and I have videos to prove it, but I've blown through way too many motors. Those 2 things are the first 2 things you need to know. Second, after you've reinvested, you need to learn, so this is the third thing. You need to know how long it's going to take you to do a job. because you don't. I mean, I did houses. My very first 3 exteriors I did them for $500.
Oh, ouch.
You say that though, Tom, and I know, like now I'm like, what? But my situation was different. I didn't know any painters. I'd never painted before.
Right.
I always took that first year and a half of splash painting was solo, other than my wife.
Yeah.
But I didn't know, and I didn't know how to. I didn't know what sheening was. I didn't know how to mix paint. There were a lot of hiccups. So my model was different. I wouldn't suggest my model. Again, we're a double income family, and not everyone is in that space, which is not it's not a good or bad thing. It's the space that I was in. So I had a little bit of a different luxury that I could do it that way. But you need to know how long it takes. So if you're in the blue collar world and you're venturing off, you need to start calculating beforehand how long it takes you to do this job.
Right.
And add 3 hours.
Right.
I just think it's smart, because when you become a business owner, you talk more to the customer, you go to Taco Bell more, all sorts of things happen. So those
good things.
They're good things. And then the fourth thing on top of that, these are like my top 4. Then you need to get a tax person. Do not ever, if you're going into business for yourself, I don't care how smart you are. If you are like Tom and have that thing, hire someone to do your taxes. I'm telling you, it'll save you and your family and your legacy so much more.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, by the way. The first thing I did, and I have an accounting background, the first thing I did when I started my business was I got a CPA to do my taxes. That was the first thing I did. And at that stage, now we pay ridiculous amounts of money to our CPA. But in that stage,
you're making a ridiculous amount of money.
Well, I hope so. Sometimes they don't tell me that. But,
no, they don't.
Yeah, but when you're first starting out, that's not going to be a lot of money, and that person actually can be an invaluable resource to you as you grow, because they can help you. They're going to say, "Hey, you realize you're paying way more for this than you're taking in on that," and little stuff like that. They'll observe that stuff, and a good one will tell you. It will give you some pointers and show you some things.
My first CPA guy said, "Don't be afraid of the word loopholes." He's like, "A loophole's your best friend. They're there for a reason."
Right.
So
and mine said, if you're not paying any taxes, you're not making any money. That was words of wisdom. So, but the whole I like the view that you're bringing up, because my know your numbers is probably a couple years out from what that you probably needed that a couple years out. There were other things, and you focused on the really important things. It's how long do things take you to do? And the fancy name for that is production rates. But the reality is, I don't care what you call it, but you do have to have some understanding of how long it takes. And the reason for me that hours is important rather than saying days or weeks or something else is, fundamentally, as you grow, you're going to pay people by the hour. And if you don't get focused on hours, you're going to miss all that time, like the extra trips to Taco Bell and the fact that you have meetings that you're paying the people to be there for, but they're not production hours. So you have to start to take that stuff into consideration. And you're right. How long it takes you to do things is absolutely key. And it has to be you have to base it on something. You can base it on your gut, but if you base it on your gut, you should in your brain go back and figure out, okay, that's a number I came up with. How did I get there? I mean, realistically, because otherwise you're going to be able to quote this kind of job all day long perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
But when you come to this other kind of job that's twice the size or half the size, or it's a commercial versus residential, you're not going to have any basis to compare this job that I know exactly how to quote to translate it to quoting this job or that job. So you have to bring it, if you can, you need to think about it and bring it down to some basis that says, okay, it takes me X hours to do this and X hours to do that. We're not talking, deep math here. In fact, when people used to say, oh, you're an accountant, you must be good at math. I suck at math. but I can add, subtract, multiply, and divide with this little thing called the calculator that I have on my phone now. So it's not, it's not advanced math by any stretch of the imagination, but you need to do it.
Yeah, you have to. We're so prideful as we should be as contractors. We're so prideful in that we own a business. I remember my first $10,000 check. I remember my first $75,000. Like, I remember there's certain checks that,
right.
And I let my kids hold the checks. I showed my children, and I teach them, like, hey, you put money away. Like,
right.
There's a lot of variables, but I share that not to brag, but I share that because that's where we want you to get.
Right.
I want you to get there. Tom wants you to get there. We want these big checks, but if you don't know the bases, the fundamentals of a business, right, there's no succession. The other question I have for you, one of the other questions is, what 3 numbers should you know at all times in your business?
Yeah. And again, this varies, and you've really highlighted to me that there are different, places in your business stage that we talk about. And so if you're in the 0 to 3 years, like what you said is absolutely on the mark. You have to know what your basis is. And then as you go out and you're doing your quoting, now you can say, okay, I have 80, 90, 120 hours of work committed or accepted or, contracted, right? And then, okay, good. I got 3 weeks worth of pay. That gives me, now maybe I can squeeze in some extra time there to do some more sales, or maybe I can recruit another person. By knowing that number of how much booked work you have, that empowers you to do a lot of things. The big one for me is, and this is exactly how I did my first hire way back and many, many moons ago, was I built up enough of a backlog that I said, hey, I can actually hire someone now, and I know I can pay them for at least 6 months or 3 months or whatever that number is. That gives you a comfort level to say, okay, I need to pull the trigger on this and go ahead and do it. So knowing, that backlog thing to me is a really important key too. Knowing how many hours you've got already booked, already in the can, and then not being afraid to build that backlog. There's a whole other topic that is a real pet of mine in terms of helping people to grow, is that backlog is important. You don't have too much, but too little, then you're scraping for every job every time, instead of, sell a little more than you can do this week or this month even. Because if you're good and you have a reputation, people will wait. Oh yeah, next month is fine, or 2.5, in fact, or I didn't even want to do that till November, or whatever. You'll find people that will commit to you in advance. And once you get committed to in advance, it makes it much easier to start adding resources to your company to help support that growth. So
and once that growth happens, when you go to backlog, I like that word.
Yeah.
For those that don't, again, I know you're very high level speaking, so I'll dumb it down a little bit for what he's saying is when you go out and you have sales and you have 3 months booked out, or you have 2 months booked out, like, that's your backlog. You know what you have coming up, and or the pipeline. I think that's the word that we use in the chat. Like, your pipeline is full. When you get to that level, I think it's so important. This is like probably podcast number 2 you and I could have, Tom.
Yeah.
You need to, I want to start from the very beginning. When you start a business, all you did was create a job for yourself. That's all you did. Mm-hmm. Congratulations. Awesome. I think it's beautiful. I did it.
Right.
That was a great day in my life. You know what a better day was? The best day of my career as a painter. And nothing will trump this. No paycheck I got that had a lot of zeros on it. The very best day was the very first day that my payroll company, because I was smart enough to hire someone, sent me all the things. I woke up in the morning. It was like automatically printed. I had 7 paychecks there. And I'm perforating them. I'm getting the chills just thinking about this topic. And I'm putting them in envelopes and I'm signing them. I'm taking, listen guys, I'm taking you to this moment. I'm like, I've never, like my wife and I were like, I remember signing my name on the last check. And one of them was a good friend of mine who worked for me. He moved to Utah, came here to work, until he wanted it. And I remember handing them that check thinking, wow, I fucking did something. I'm getting teary-eyed. Sorry. Like I did something so beautiful.
Yeah.
It never mattered what I was making. It never, the 9,000, the 12,000. I mean, we were averaging $10,000 homes. Like that didn't matter. But to know that another human relied on me, I don't know why I'm getting so emotional about this. I'm like, the fact that another human put so much trust in me to put food on their table. They did the work. I'm not taking anything away from the work that they did.
Right.
Like that is the very best day of splash painting, was that first day that I signed a check. Yeah. Not the first day I handed money over because I paid someone under the table. Not that. We all do it. Let's just call it what it is. Remember, if you ain't paying taxes, you ain't making money. I like that. So we could make some shirts with that. But like, I'm so sorry. I don't mean to get emotional. I literally have tears in my eyes. Like,
no, it's a big deal.
It's huge.
Yeah.
It's a big day.
Yeah.
But when you get to that level, don't make the mistake I did. You can't do it all. You need Estimate Rocket. You need software there. I know we're not here to talk about exactly 100% what you do, but you need third-party applications. You need other employees.
Yeah.
Because it's hard creating a job for yourself, but when you do it for other people and they're reliant on you, your backlog, your pipeline, you need to know.
Yeah.
And I eventually shifted to where I was just bidding and was able to do that for a period of time until my ego got involved again. But like, I like to throw myself on. If anyone's going to throw themselves, let it be you first. Then no words mean anything, right?
Ego is our worst enemy.
It's actually, I know people have said that. I actually believe it's a great friend of mine. I'm a Kobe Bryant fan. I love the positivity of things. I've gotten told so much how cocky I am, and I tell people all the time, like, I'm not cocky. I'm just extremely confident. And your lack of understanding that, or your insecurities, are just highlighting themselves when you see someone in your life that's so confident that you mistake it for arrogance. And it's like, no, I just know, like, again, let's go back to the $500 houses that I was doing for a year. There was no money. $500 is like groceries for a week with 3 teenagers or 3 little kids that were
maybe.
Yeah. But I took those times to learn from my mistakes. I took those times because I wasn't employed with anybody. I literally was in college being a stay-at-home dad and going to college to be a hospital administrator. Of all things, that's like was my lifelong goal in my 30s. Like, I want to give free healthcare to people. And someone needed the house painted, and my wife's like, hey, you're bored at home. You're really good at it. You should go paint a house.
Right.
I'm like, cool. So I did it for a year, and like, I absolutely fell in love with it. But like, knowing your numbers is important. And, one thing I'll add to all this conversation, and I meant to say earlier, is I said earlier, there's certain things you need to know, like Facebook groups.
Right.
Home area is so important. I'm lucky where I live in Utah. I live in an HOA, so I can bid at $10,000 houses. I'm going to get it because the homeowner has to paint their house.
Right.
It's a luxury. I live in a luxury neighborhood, I'll say. There's a lot of content creators, and Utah has a lot of tech companies here. We're like the mini, whatever, California, the Silicon Valley. We really are. It's quite interesting. But with that being said, in groups or conversations you have, do you ever get people that come up to you like, Tom, I don't know how to bid this. I don't know how many square feet I'm in.
Yeah.
Like, when you hear that or see that, I always want to tell people to start over. Like, okay, let's start over your business.
Yeah.
Still work, but how do you feel? Like you're the brain, you understand estimating, and you're not actually out selling a paint job or a concrete work, but you get it. What would you advise people that I call it know your region, know your area, or every area
Right.
you work in. You need to know. Take a
Yeah.
day, go get your favorite cup of coffee, no alcohol, and drive your neighborhood. Like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna get shit for this, and I'm okay saying it. If you see broken down cars on the streets, couches on the porch, that's not a lot of money. Like, you know that. Like,
Right.
I'm not trying to be a dick here. I really am not. It,
Realistic.
it's realistic. You know, if you go into a neighborhood that you have to gate it, you know there's more money there. When you pull
Right.
into a driveway, let's forget what's in the yard. You pull up to a driveway. If there's a 1990s car there, they could be frugal like me, but let's be
Collector.
realistic, you know? But look at the neighborhood. I mean, neighborhoods are huge indicators. There'll always be jobs for you. I know blue collar people like I'm not getting work. When I
Mm.
hear that from people, I always go with you've outbidded yourself because you financially aren't stable. So you're trying to rob from one job to make up for the other job you didn't make enough
Mm.
money for.
Right.
And I don't know. Do you agree with that? Do you think that makes sense
Yeah,
in the
that
sense of the
definitely
contractor world?
happens. And again, by the way, these things are applied to all kinds of businesses. That this is the same. I know what you were
It's
saying
every
earlier
industry.
about,
Every industry.
yeah, there's a lack of trust because you haven't done what I've done. I have not done exactly what you've done, although I did build my first house myself, literally, with my dad's help. But I have not done that as a living, but I've done my business as a living, and I have, um, and behind that, I've got some educational experience that's been hugely valuable. Much like some of the coaching programs and things that people will go to. I mean, you have to get help if you don't understand the business fundamentals, and that can be a peer group. But if, as you said, if the peer group is asking the wrong questions, then you probably want to find a different peer group because you got to get you got to help be with a group of people that understands like you do. You've got to be a realist. You've got to go out and look at where you're looking for work and how you're looking for work. You got to know what you're doing, and we all, when we start out small. I mean, there's
Yeah.
no just starting out big. um, service Service businesses, and we're a service business, they don't just start out huge unless you go get a venture capitalist, and none of us are really going to get a venture capitalist for that, and that's not what you want to do anyway.
And don't take
um,
out loans. Don't do click funnels. It's not for you, kids.
yeah. No. No. No, but there's a
But
you know there's just a path to follow.
we've already talked about it. But the one of the other questions I had written down was, how do you come up with the numbers that are important to your company? Are there
Yeah.
staples for you? I think market area. That's the word I use in my
Yeah.
social media courses. Like market area. Like, again, what does the home look like? What are you walking into?
Right.
You have to know. And honestly, guys and gals, listen to this. One of the best things you can do to be a better be a better business owner, is to admit I'm not good at the sales. Go hire a salesman. I don't care what
Yeah.
trade you're in. If you're not good at sales, but you're good at the labor, hire someone.
Right.
There's always tons of young people. They can be old too, but younger generate less money out of your pocket for now, and you can incentivize them. And these young kids are really incentivized right now,
Right.
you know. But when you think about the numbers that are important, are there one or two numbers that stick out that you're like, look, you have to know, you have to know how to come up with these numbers? I think we probably beat a dead horse, but it is hours based.
Yeah.
It's time, you know.
Time constrained. I mean, that's your limiter, right? There's only so many hours in a day times the number of people that you have.
Yeah,
And so you, yeah.
I had an employee leave me to go to like North Dakota, and he
Mhm.
wanted to go start his own business there. And he's like, I don't know. And it made me think of how can I coach my employees to be better them. It's when I started realizing like it's not about me, it's about letting them do what they can do. One of the things you know, I taught from inside Splash Painting was time yourself.
Right.
You know, You know yourself better than anybody when it comes to the work. Don't ever let an employee, a boss tell you like, oh, you're slow at this. Like there's a lot
Right.
of us that are very meticulous. There's a lot of us that are very sloppy. You
Right.
know, that's okay.
Yeah.
You can clean up a mess. You can clean everything in the blue collar world can be fixed. Like I know it can, and mistakes happen. But
Right.
when you think about those people that ask those questions, I'm gonna have to add you to these faith.
Yeah.
You would love these groups.
I really would. I would love to.
How and like how do you get to that? How do you get to the square footage? Like what do you tell people? Like when a client comes
Yeah.
to Estimate Rocket, like what do you tell them? What advice do you guys give them?
Well, so we actually have set up some templates for painting based on PCA rates and also kind of adjusted by talking to our customers and understanding. We My advice is that you measure the room and you don't worry about openings and door, like you don't subtract for openings. Just you got to work around stuff. So if there's a lot of openings, there's going to be more working around and cutting in, right? So just measure the raw square footage. But you have to. This implies that you know something about your production rates, which is why the PCA rates are helpful because they give you a guideline. They're not perfect. They're designed by their kind of lab design, and you got to benchmark your own. But trial and error will tell you how you're going to come out. Okay, so you're going to do a couple, measure the square footage, door trim, ceiling, windows, count those, and we'll spit out a number. Now, is that going to be the right number? Well, first of all, you benchmark that on something that you've done yourself. If you've already estimated, and I usually say, if they even look remotely close, then go with it because that's doing what yours did, what your method did. And I know my method's backed by a little bit of science, at least. Again, might not be your production rates, might need to change your labor rate, but the basic production concept of square footage and number of door trim, number of window trim, etc., works. It's not going to be exactly the same as your numbers. Yeah, what do I recommend? I know I'm going off on a tangent
No,
here
no.
but
Well,
the thing that
you're saying it right because I have a friend who's extremely successful, and
yeah,
I ask him, we're talking 30 employees.
yeah,
He golfs a lot. We travel, and I
yeah,
asked him, I said, what was the number one thing that made you realize that? Because he struggled for years, and he said, time management.
yeah.
He said, time will kill you, and time will give you more time. And I'm of the mind belief, like I don't even know what year it is sometimes, but that's the retirement life though. But like it's and now I've actually even before I retired, I always never knew what day of the week it was. To be honest with you, I remember writing a check one time in like 2019. I'm like, babe, what year is it? 2021. She's like, it's like 2019, bro. I'm like, oh, okay, cool.
Have that problem every year in January and February.
No, mine's a 12-month a year. I go outside. Oh, it looks like it's July. Yeah, but I asked him what he did, and
Yeah,
and I've heard this saying before. Have you ever heard of KISS? Ever heard of
yeah,
the
yeah. Keep it
keep it
simple,
simple,
stupid.
stupid? And I said, well, what did you do? He said, I looked at every job I did for a year. So I sat down because he was really frustrated. What his problem was overtime.
Right.
It
Yeah.
killed him.
Ooh, yeah.
And he got himself into some tax some tax problems.
Yeah.
I'm sharing some tea here.
Yeah.
And I said, what did you do? He said, I looked at the year and I was realizing, one, I wasn't bidding enough. He said, my pipeline, or as you said, his backlog was filled.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he said, it was filled because I wasn't putting enough money on the books to sustain the successfulness that I wanted.
Right.
So after he did that,
right.
He bought a program. I don't know. Like I said, this is about 2-3 years ago. I don't know. I don't ask those questions.
Doesn't matter.
Why. I don't. Yeah. I'm more proud of the conversation, in the success that he's had. But that leads me to, for you in Estimate Rocket, why do business owners have a hard time keeping track of their own numbers? or their key numbers? Like, why is it such a hard
Yeah,
thing?
I think a big part of it is just not having enough time, especially if you're still an army of one. It's just not on your radar because you're too busy doing production. Number two is it does take, processes and systems. And that's the other thing I was going to jump on. That'd be a whole nother good topic, actually, because and when I say processes, I'm talking about on the simplest level an outline of how you do this thing in your company, and
Mm-hmm.
keep it short, make a video of it and just narrate it, but it's documented and it becomes a process. And for you can look at it and go, wow, why do I do it that way? Hey, if I did this instead of that, shit, it'd take, I'd save an hour a day. That mentality is something you've got to find. You've got to get in that. I guarantee you, if you're a craftsman, when you go into the space, you have a process up here, right? There's a
Mm-hmm.
process. You move the furniture, you know exactly what you're going to do when you walk into the room before you do, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that you do every single day. So you could say, well, I don't need a process for that. You'll need the process for that when you hire more people, because they need to know what you know in order to do it in the way you do. But initially, you develop those processes yourself, and you just know what they are, and you use them. Well, you got to use those for outside of the production world too. So you got to have, okay, so what's my process for billing? Every week I need to look at what are the projects that I just completed that I can bill, or what projects can I progress bill. That's an important couple of hours. If you do those things, if you start doing those things, you can increase your billing rate. You're going to become more and more valuable to your customers. And like you said, everybody undervalues their work when they first start. Everybody, because they're just hungry to get going. But in your brain, you got to not get locked into, oh, that's going to be my price forever. That's your startup price.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a rookie and I'm going to show you guys how great I am. But guess what? Next time you call, it's probably going to be a little more expensive. I'm not going to gouge anybody, but things are going to change. So you got that crazy startup thing. You got to really hustle and do a lot of things. Maybe you do the bills on the weekend, or ask your wife to help, or however you get that done. But then don't be afraid to increase your prices. Everybody increases their prices way too
Every
late
year.
or way too slow. Everybody. I mean, and it almost, again, this affects every single business. The problem is, if you care about your customers and care about what you do, you're probably undercharging them.
Yeah.
It's like this, if you don't care, you're like, I'll charge you $25,000 instead of the normal $20,000 for this job. But you can't be that way, because the reason you have a value, and what you're doing, people need and want. And if you're doing it well and giving them a great experience, you can't put yourself in the poorhouse. You can't look at you also probably need to change your mindset of, what a lot of money is. And you
Yeah.
talked about neighborhoods. You go into some neighborhoods, and what you're thinking is a lot of money for this job. They might think, oh, he can't be any good. At that price, I'm a little scared. Nobody ever takes a low bid. Nobody takes a high bid. They take that bid somewhere in the middle. The not
Mm-hmm.
greedy person with a good reputation, right? I know I'm kind of rambling on here, but these
No,
are such
they're
hot, really key topics.
they're so valuable. We could talk hours about this, Tom.
I know.
I and it's not the money. I once had a customer. I
Right.
mean, I've had a lot of stories about customers, but I had a customer one time that we did some work for them the years before. They had a few
Yeah.
rentals. Their
Sure.
siblings. The next year they called and I gave them a bid, and the wife was like, "Hey," and I had a good rapport with them. Like, I know who they are in
Sure.
the neighborhood. We live in a very
Yeah.
close knit neighborhood,
Yeah.
and she's like, "This is like 15% higher than what you did last year. Like, we want to hire you, but we're gonna have to go someone else. You're too expensive." I said, "Look,
Yeah.
so did you go to the gas station in January?" She's like, "Well, yeah, I get gas
Mm-hmm.
every day." I said, "There's your answer."
Right.
I said, "Cost that goes up."
Right.
I said, "I know you're not," but again, don't listen
It's
to
hard.
Splash, but don't listen to me because I am a pirate. I have a pirate mouth. When I'm on a customer, like, and I feel like I have to be buttoned up, I'm very direct. Hence,
Right.
why my wife tells me I can never work a white collar job again because this is what I told her. After she's like, well, yeah, but I said, look, you're not a business owner. I have insurances because you want to hire me because I'm insured, right? She's like, well, yeah.
Mm.
I said, I have workman's comp. You don't want my employees to sue you if they get injured working on your house, right? So, yeah. I said, all of those cost money. Sherwin-Williams paint, it goes up. I said, all those things don't matter. And I'm only sharing these with you. We'll call Laura, because I've done 7 houses for you. But if you want me to maintain the excellent service you get, these are my costs now.
Right.
It's not for any other reason that we got so busy, I had to raise my prices. That is a conversation. Again, have it probably a little more soft than me, but that is an important conversation. You work up to it. But the flip side of that is I actually just met with Sherwin-Williams recently, and they're not even painting anymore. Well, we're actually doing a free project. I haven't. We'll have some social media. There's a couple that called me to a house. I'm not painting, but I found some painters to do it. Sherwin-Williams donated the paint. Lowe's donated the trim work. It's a free project. I want to give back. It's a family who has a disabled kid that they wrote me 2 years after giving them a bid. Said, hey, we want to go with you, and I bid the house. So my business model is this. Do not follow this unless you have a really good crew and you have management in space. I didn't have management, but it worked for me. So don't do this. I had 3 crews going, and then I would do a house by myself because I was addicted to painting. Like, for those that don't actually know, that's why I Splash retired. It was either painting or my wife and kids. And I love my wife and kids. They're fucking awesome. So it's this new reality I've had to come to. But I would go paint houses by myself. So this one house, I would do like 8 bids in a day. Usually Mondays or Thursdays were my bid days. Like, my whole crew knew, I'm not going to be on a job site. You guys need to be big boys and girls and take care of yourself.
Yeah.
I spoke a lot more piratey to them on that. But I would always look at a house or two and say, oh, I'm going to do this by myself. So fast forward now, $8,000 house. Honestly, this house is about a $12,000 house. Like, that's just how big it is. All the work that needs to be done. You're $12,000. You're painting it in 4 days. You're replacing the trim in a day. So it's a 5-day work week. And you're going to gross profit probably about $7,000 if your crew's really good. That's a good take home for your business.
Yeah, for sure.
You know? So anyways, I can't paint the house because it's an addiction. I cannot literally touch a spray gun. If it's my house, it's way different. But if it's anyone else, I tried doing it and I'm like, oh wow, this is an issue. Like, I know people are probably like, dude, you can't be addicted to work. Like, no, you can. I'm addicted to painting, and it's scary, the addiction that I have to it. It really is. But with that being said, I share that story because you need to understand in your business, you can't manage everything. And I don't know Estimate Rocket's prices. If you want to share those, which would be great, that's up to you. But like, one of the social media, in my social media course that's coming out at the end of the year, one of the topics of conversation I said, listen, as a new business owner, you need to include in your monthly bills, like, let's say you have your house bill, your cars, all those things, that your business is paying $600 in third-party applications.
Right.
And I dive down deeper into it, and I know I want to actually talk to you guys offline about this because do you feel that's a safe number? I mean, again, everything's different. Every situation is different, but I'm saying obviously my social media course is really geared towards new businesses and then businesses that have struggled. You're in your 5th year, you're in your 6th year, because I think that, like, just like a relationship with your wife or husband, you get to a point like, is this working? And don't you lie and say, I've never thought that, Splash. Bullshit. I'm going to call you out. Just don't let your wife or husband know you thought that. Mum's the
Yeah.
word. But we've all had that. You're lying to yourself. It's the same thing,
Yeah.
you know, in a
Yeah.
business. So I've been testing my social media course with some painters. Like they're more established. I'm like, hey, I just want
Yeah.
you to look at it. Tell me what you think. And I've
Sure.
gotten a really good kickback to that. Like, hey, that really makes, and these are established businesses. They're not just painters. I'm
Yeah.
talking all blue collars. I have some plumbers, some roofers,
Sure.
concrete framers. I have even a welder,
Yeah.
is doing it. And the
Huh.
conversation was like, I had explained to them in detail what third party applications are. And they're like, but why? And I said, because you can't do it all. You
Right.
just can't. And I think
Right.
$600 is a good start because I'm talking like your CPAs. If you hire, I forget the company that I did my payroll through. They're very, very.
Bookkeeping for painters or one of
No,
those.
no, it
There's a
was not
couple of them.
bookkeeping. No, it
Okay.
was a bigger nationwide company. It wasn't just for
Okay.
painters. It was FHD or something. I don't. They do like a big companies. I just don't know the name. Like the reason I went with them is they do huge corporations and the price is actually cheaper. You would think like, oh, they're
Wow.
bigger name. They're like the Mercedes of payroll, but it was like $120 to handle everything. So like I looked at my books and said, okay, because I like honestly, Tom, if I started a new business today,
Yeah.
it would be ran 90% different than what it was.
Right.
And sometimes, I hate to break this to you people, but like it's the truth. Restart.
Yeah.
Restart.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you failed. It actually means you succeeded. Like I got, when I announced my retirement, you would be shocked. I got like 40 DMs and text messages. You failed. You call yourself this painter. And I'm like, yo, you just hating because like you don't know the last contract I just did. Like,
right.
You just see he's 40 and retired. But I'm like, no, there's a lot more to it that happened to that. But the big part of why I say that is like you need to step back sometimes and be like, this isn't working.
Yeah.
You know, those of us that have kids, those of us that have dogs, wives or husbands, like you change as a person. So you're naive to think that your business isn't going to change. Like you said, your market goes up all the time. And on the flip side though, Tom, you do have to be aware though, you can overprice yourself. There is that possibility. And that's not an ego thing. It's you don't know, back to the root of all this, you don't know your numbers.
Right.
You know?
Oh, totally.
I'm $175 a kitchen door. When my business was running, my minimum was $175. Go count your kitchen cabinets. I would give people like, no, I said, you've no idea the process that I put into that.
Right.
No
Absolutely.
idea. You know,
that's a very good price.
Yeah, I think it's pretty fair. I know dudes that are like $275 to $300, and like, dude, you need to raise your prices.
I've seen everything from $135 to $275.
Yeah, if you're not over $100 on kitchen cabinets, a door, and what I mean by that is if there's 30 doors, you should be, and that is your time and material. That's like everything.
Right.
That includes the box. If we re-drilled, I would re-drill new doorknobs or not doorknobs, but like kitchen hardware. We would re-drill them. That's the piece rate. I didn't do that hourly because, that's a pretty simple job, but it was like $1,000 per door. Right. And these are things you don't tell customers. Like, listen, I made the mistake of letting people know my prices. I don't think that's important. I don't know how you feel about that. I think your prices are your prices. Like Walmart doesn't tell you why their lean meat of 90% lean is $8.99 a pound.
I think it's important to show. I mean, my personal feeling is if it's depending upon the type of job, of course, there's some jobs where you show more or less. But if it's a interior and they're going room by room, okay, you give them one price for the room. You don't give them it's this many hours and it's this much for the paint. And I think letting them know this is my price for the room. If you want to go paint it yourself, go buy a few cans of paint and do it. But don't, this is the price that we charge to do this service. And exteriors, a lot of folks just do the total. They'll list out what they're doing, what the scope is, but not with a price on every line necessarily, unless the customer says, do we have to do that part, or is there anything big we can cut out of this? And then you can say, yeah, if we cut these things out, but they'll have these consequences.
I went off into supplies and labor.
Yeah.
And then like I did crown molding, we did cabinets. There's actually a lot of things I did other than painting.
Yeah.
Because that's what my license, whatever I was licensed to do, I would do. And I would get people that wanted the breakdown of it. And when I would do it, it was like a head scratch to them. Like, well, why is this, and why is that? And I finally got to a point, like, it's not worth the conversation. Now, if I had hired a salesperson, probably would have been better. They could have had a nicer conversation. Like, I know I'm rough around the edges. I'm not naive to who I am.
Hey,
so
you care about what you do, and it hurts when people start like picking you apart on something.
Yeah,
and it's like the programming equivalent of that is, and we get this all. I love our customers, but we get this all the time. Oh, you can just do that. It would be really simple. And it's like it just like in any other business, there are things that look totally trivial that are the hardest things to do, and there are things that look wicked hard that are like piece of cake to do, and it just is. You can't tell.
One of the taglines that painters use, and I would beat this into the heads of my employees: our money's made in prep work.
Yeah.
Painting a room, I'm gonna get shit on this, is fucking easy. Anybody can roll a room.
I can do that.
Like the wall behind me, like this is a little bit more intricate. It's my studio. And then like this stuff, like this is my studio. Like I take time and, but this is actually how I started my business, was doing like faux, like, hey, I just want some type of design. Cool. Do you care? Nope. So I would just, do,
Sweet.
We would do rooms like this for $300. But I like it. It's like, fits my personality. But like, I don't know, Tom. It's the industry since COVID. The industry's changed, and what I want to do, what I want to see Estimate Rocket do, what I want to see, the third party applications that we're talking about is, I want them to be staples in their business. I want not even say staple. I want you to be tools. It is another. Thank you. That's exactly what I was going to. That is a tool. It is a tool. It's part of your toolbox. You go to Lowe's, you go to Home Depot. They're not sponsors yet. You go to these places and you buy a tool, and then boom, you go. You're going to buy it anyways. So why not? Because and we said this earlier, is like when you have a third party application like Estimate Rocket, it is an employee. The only good thing about a third party application, well, there's not the only, but a lot of good things is, one, they don't talk back. They're not going to waste your time. And if you know this, give me a high five on one of my social media posts. I want you to just give me a flame, and I'll know that you listen to the podcast. The third thing is they don't come back to you on a Tuesday saying they need money. Like you just paid on a Friday, they're not going to come back. With a third-party application, it's a once-a-month build or a lifetime or however that service is. But they're not like an employee. So they're actually a way better employee that functions.
Yeah.
But the one thing, too, and I think this is, I feel like this is a lost conversation with what you guys do and other companies that are third-party applications, is you have history. You get to go back. I know, like I said, I've looked at what you guys do. We never used you guys. I never, again, my ego didn't. I'll admit it. I didn't.
It's okay, man. There's lots of stuff out there.
But no, I didn't use anything. I just did it myself. But I am also married to someone who is extremely technical savvy.
Yeah.
That she's like, hey, I built this. So I put it in. And magically, all the numbers just worked. I'm like, oh, cool. So she downloaded it on
That
my
works.
phone. And again, that's why, like, it does. I know you don't care, but
Sure.
I'm saying, like, again, the situation is different. Some people don't have
Right.
that ability. I didn't
Right.
use it, but every month my wife get in like, hey, you didn't add this house, you didn't do this. Here we go. You need to make this
Right.
adjustment. And I it was just a lucky for me to have that. But like when you're using this third party applications like yours, is that you get history to go back and say, hey, how did we do in January?
Yeah.
How do we do in March? And like we talked about earlier, you can raise your prices if you say, hey, you know what, in March. So for me, March was the biggest month because that's when I booked all of my exteriors. I literally would pipeline, bookend the whole summer. The whole summer. And again, I live in an HOA community. It's way different. If you've never worked in an HOA community and you have an HOA community by you, if you want consistent money for summer, go find that neighborhood and start putting signs up.
Right.
Promise you, you will thank me in a minute. Just be really good at what you do, because you will gain a name, and there's going to be 20 people a year that want to hire you. That's at least 20. I don't care what HOA you're in. It's guaranteed.
Yeah.
Especially hardy siding, stucco, maybe not so much, but hardy siding exteriors. You know, I actually, there's a lot of guys in Utah, well, not just guys, but like men and women that own paint businesses here. And we all joke about it, like four of us. We really could just do exteriors and never touch an interior.
Wow.
But we had employees. Our employees didn't understand that because they're not the business owners. But like, I mean, I know two guys who have employees that they only work the summer. They make enough money, you know, because they're pushing 2 houses out a week.
Right.
That's a lot.
Wow.
But they like the free time. They get to travel and do things with their kids. So what I fucking love about being blue collar, Tom, is like you get to make your schedule. You get to make the life that you want. And that's so, it's something that like whenever you go into business, I mean, for you, when you wanted to create something. You wanted to create the world. You want to be able to, you know, I know, I think I was on a podcast with your wife, with you guys. I think her and Chris were on. You want to make that life for you guys that you can say, hey, look, you know what? Let's pack up. Let's go ski in Utah this weekend.
Yeah.
You know, when you're a business owner like that, let's be honest. You're not doing it. I hate the word financial freedom.
Yeah.
You're doing it to be a free spirit.
Right.
You know, let's change the narrative a little bit. Money is money.
Yeah.
If you're chasing money, you're always going to chase it. But if you're living to live your life and be a free spirit, you really are enjoying the fruits of your labor.
Right.
Sorry for the biblical term, but like it's the truth.
And you should. It is sort of the myth of you can do whatever you want to, which we know you can't exactly do whatever you want to, but it does give you a level of flexibility that
within reason.
You don't necessarily have another thing.
I have 3 questions I want to spit out at you, and I think we talked about them, but I'll ask 3 of them, and then I'm going to shut up and let you talk. Can a business restart themselves?
Sure. Yeah, I've done it.
Is it hard?
You brought up a point earlier that is the reason it works is because you know a shitload more in the second one than you do in the first one. Now, if your first one is only lasts 6 months, well, you may not have learned that much. But if you do something for a couple of years and kind of have a groove, but it's not really working, you can absolutely reset yourself. Is it easy? Is it a no challenge? It's definitely a challenge. I mean,
because you're going to want to go back to the habits. But if you're aware of them, you can write a list that says we're not going to do these things. The other 2 questions are, why do blue collar businesses fail? From your perspective, why do blue collar businesses fail?
That's a really hard question. I mean, there are some reasons. There's a variety of reasons. I honestly,
in reference to you being Estimate Rock, and let me ask that. In reference to you see people's bids, you see people's numbers. From your perspective as a third-party applicant.
Yeah, I'm gonna say the biggest reason is for a lack of creating processes. And by that, I'm not talking about, automation specifically. I'm just talking about having a process for how you're going about the business activities, and does everything have to be documented? No, but you have to have, if you're not internalizing a process, then you're not doing things like, oh, I need to bill now. It's billing time of the month. Oh, I need to, these things that you have to do, they're the part of the business that is, it is repetitive, but you have to do it, or you have to get someone to do it for you. And that's hard when you're first starting. So that's number one. Number two is probably a lack of business knowledge. I mean, you either need a mentor who understands business that can help you with things and understanding, when to raise your prices, how to figure out what the right prices are. We can talk about how many hours it takes to do stuff, but you also have to look at what do people charge in our area. And again, there's a high, there's a low, there's a median. You got to be you got to pick the range you want to be in, and kind of own that and understand what it takes to charge in that zone, right? You want to charge in the highest zone, you probably have to have really good service, and you have to be personable, and people have to like you. If you want to charge on the low end, well, then you can pretty much do anything you want, but you're going to really scratch and struggle a lot more.
One thing I want to add to that,
yeah,
those are very big. One thing I want to add to that, though, is high and low end painting, and I don't mean just painting, everything.
Yeah, everything.
And I said it earlier, like when you look at someone's house, you go to give them a bid, look at what their yard, look at the car they drive.
Yeah.
When you show up, you're also being judged.
Right.
Your appearance is important.
Absolutely.
Extremely important.
Yeah.
If you're pulling up in a big old truck with a 7-inch lift and you're looking all pretty with some nice rims on it, they're going to know you're pricey. If you're pulling up in a little pickup truck that has wood panels, again, I'm not shitting on anybody.
Right.
I'm not shitting on you. Just know that customer has already in their mind put a number to you.
Right.
So,
excellent point.
The most successful businesses that I know, when I mean successful, this is what I mean. They have minimum 10 employees. Their employees have cars. Their employees show up and they don't work weekends. I am 1,000%. Again, one of those things I would change. We did it really well, but there's always there's always a what if this happens. Do not work weekends. And this is why.
Right.
I need you guys and gals to show up on Monday with 100% of the energy.
Mm-hmm.
I need you to go out, pay your bills first, spend that money, go to football games, go drink some beers, whatever it is that you do. Go hunt, fish, country music. I don't care. Concerts, raves, and go on and on. Go do it. Because on Monday, I want you to show up and be the best you can be. You guys and gals need to stop the weekend bullshit. Now, I know there's a lot of businesses, though, you can say, hey, don't work Monday and Tuesday, work Saturday, Sunday. That's okay.
Yeah.
But you got to have some space. I like a 4-day week. And we were getting to a place where we were working 4 days. The bigger problem is my guy's like, well, I'm not making the money. I'm like, no, you're getting your 40 hours. You're just working those 8 a little bit spread out. Right. If your favorite, not counting your wife, if your favorite human being came to you, someone that you just wanted to see them succeed, you knew that they could, but you knew they were going to struggle. And they said, hey, Tom, I'm going to start this blue collar business. What 1 to 3 things would you tell them? Like imperative, like if you do these 3 things, it'll make it easier. I know this is an on the spot question, but it's so important because if you're listening to this, I want you guys and gals to ask yourself this. What would you change today?
Yeah. So this is somebody I know pretty well.
Someone you know, someone that trusts your opinion. Yeah. I say not your wife because obviously we're going to, it's different.
Yeah,
but just someone that you respect. It's like, hey, Tom,
sure.
They take it to Top Golf.
Yeah.
If you drink a beer, you have a beer, and they're like, hey, I'm starting this blue collar business. What can I'm asking you, Tom, what can I do?
I would say you need to be prepared to work really hard. And there's going to be some times when you're going to think this is just is not fucking working and I want to do something else.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to push through that. That is entrepreneurship 101. And if you don't think you can do that, then there's going to be rough spots no matter how good you are, no matter how good things go, but it's okay, but it works. And you can succeed through it. That's one. Number two is, what do you know about what you're getting? What you want to get into? Have you done research? Do you feel confident that you understand about the market and the customers and any investment that needs to be made to get started in it? Those are things you need before you pull the plug on whatever you're doing now and you dive into it. And three would be, and maybe this should actually be number one, is, do you love this thing? Like, is this something that jazzes you up more than you can possibly imagine? Because best advice my father ever gave me, he said, son, find something that you can make a great living at that you love doing. And I've heard other permutations of that, which end with, and you'll never work a day in your life. Yeah. And I was lucky enough to find programming, and I love programming, and I just had to figure out, how do I make a business where I can serve people, help them with their businesses, and get to do what I love to do, which is programming and helping people learn how to, solve their problems, and both computer and process, and that just jazzes me. I love every day I get to help someone solve a problem. It pushes their business forward. It's like the best day of my life.
I like those three. Those are important. Those are.
What would your three be?
They're different than yours, and okay. I think that the experiences that we went through mine and changed these things. So I know I've mentioned before my social media course. The very first lesson of my social media course is the very first thing I would tell, and I tell everybody this, so I'm not afraid to speak it because I think it's true.
Yeah.
And if it hits home, is because you've lived it and you know it.
Yeah.
First thing is, nobody in your life cares about your business. You need to understand that nobody. I don't care if it's a partner. I don't care if it's your wife, your best friend, your spouse. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Nobody cares. And I want to clarify this because I said this to my wife. And it started this very in-depth conversation, but this is part of the course, particularly that I have, is like, I know my friends and my wife love me.
Right.
What I mean by caring is this. When you start a business and your name is on there, when everyone closes their eyes, when everyone's playing on their phone in the bathroom, when everyone's in the shower, they're lifting weights, they're on a run, they're not thinking about everything that's in your head right now. And I want you to stop. Like, if that hits, stop this recording and listen. Go back and listen to that. They're not thinking about what's going on in your head because they don't care. They don't care. They support you. They may buy your t-shirts. They may want free shit, but they don't care. That is the hardest lesson that I had to learn in my business.
Yeah.
Second, you're not an octopus. You do not have 8 arms for a reason, which means you don't have 8 brains. You don't have 8 legs. You need to learn, first and foremost, what do you love about the business? Once you know what you love is, that's what you do, and you hire around it.
Mm.
You have to hire around what you love.
Right.
And when you hire, they don't need to be the expert in your business because, again, they don't care. The less emotion you have in your business, the more successful you'll be. The more success you are going to allow your employees to have to succeed and be better them. Yeah. And it's extremely hard to get there. It's very doable. It's just hard because then you're outputting more money. You're bringing in Estimate Rocket, you're bringing in someone said that I'm a mentor or coach right now. You're bringing in someone like me
Yeah.
that's telling experiences. And then lastly, to tie this in, and this is part of that first course, is when you understand those first two things, learn that you now have a pirate ship that you're not pirating. What I mean, like my lifelong goal is to own a pirate ship. That's like the goal of all goals. But what I mean by that is if you own a pirate ship and you're sailing in the ocean and you're not at the helm, you're doing damn good. You're doing real good, right?
Yeah.
You're drinking margaritas, you're having mojitos, you're fishing off the dinghy, you're jumping off the plank with your grandkids or whatever, your best friends. Learn to pirate your business without pirating, because if you can do that, you're doing your business for what you love. You know that no one cares, and you've built a really strong foundation around you that works. But I want you guys to understand one thing. I don't know if you caught this, Tom. None of what I said dealt with money.
Yeah.
None of it. And none of what you said dealt with what?
Money.
Money.
Yeah.
Money will always make itself for you. It will.
Yeah.
It always has throughout time. It always will. I know I'm going deep here, but like,
no, that's true.
It just does. You know, I have a 17-year-old kid, and he's getting ready to, venture into the world. I mean, he already has, and white collar mom, blue as fuck collar dad. Sorry, and I just tell him, I said, I don't care. Like you said, like your dad said, love what you do and go do it. Well, I don't know what it is. Okay, that's fine. Yeah. Go work. And if you like it, move up. If you don't like it, get the fuck out but get another job first. Like,
Right.
And it's such this thing. I don't know. The whole business, and this is why the social media course I built is coming out, is because like there's such a need for it. And the other thing, I not to talk about competitors, but I think it's important. I'm very much a community over competition mindset. But third-party operations like yourself, it's important that you have a starting point. I call it knowing your value. That's so important. Right. That's like probably in the top 10 of things, like know your value.
Right.
And I think it goes back to what you were saying earlier is like, raise your prices. It's okay. It's absolutely okay. Because with every year of experience, I mean, look at Estimate Rocket. Every time you add a software feature, every time you make a how-to video, you've just increased the value of Estimate Rocket. So for those that don't know what, I know we didn't really talk about, and that was the whole, part of this talk is not always talking about Estimate Rocket, but like let's wrap this up and go, what is Estimate Rocket? Where can people find you? And in I hate this word. I'm going to use it though. Sorry, Tom. What? Let me get my white collar voice on. So Tom, what is your elevator pitch to us? You can't do it. I can't fucking do it. I would never work in a white collar job. I'd be fired. HR would escort me out of the building. Like Splash. You can't talk about that. Like, no, like this is my personality. Like I'm just like here. Let me go.
Yeah.
But what is Estimate Rocket? Where can people find you? And what value do you bring to the contractor world from your perspective as the business owner? Like,
sure. So the elevator pitch is we're an end-to-end software solution that enables service contractors to run their businesses efficiently, saving them time and money so they can stop focusing on technology and focus on the customers and work that matter. That's really the essence of what we try to deliver. Our value is it's a tool that you will use potentially for the lifetime of your business. We have a lot of long-term customers that stay a long time, and we we have processes that'll take your projects from, and we call everything a project, starts in the sales cycle, the estimates, proposals, sales automation, and then scheduling of appointments for sales and scheduling for your work. So you want to know what your backlog is. It's real easy. You can look at the calendar, you can look at your scheduled work report. But one of the real keys is documentation. And when I say documentation, you mentioned this before, you're going to have customers throughout your company's life cycle that you're going to do business for over and over and over again, hopefully. And you can so easily go back and see all the details of any project you've ever done in one place in seconds. And that, believe it or not, becomes a totally invaluable tool for you. Just, that customer calls 7 years, 7 years ago, we did your project. You can go back to that project. You can look at exactly how you bid it, what you charged them, and prepare yourself for what the new proposal is going to look like. And then the other thing that we do is because of my background, I'm very focused on trying to produce and give you access to the numbers that you need to answer the questions about your business that you need to know, like how much work do I have booked? What does my pipeline look like? And as you grow, how's my sales team doing? How many jobs are they closing? What's the average job size? Stuff like that. How are the crews performing? Are they meeting their estimates? Because once you get into estimating and proposals that are metric based or production rate based, you can look at it and say, hey, we bid 50 hours. It took 100 or it took 25, one of the two, and have conversations because you know who estimated it and you know who worked it. And you can have great conversations with your team about, hey, so what happened here? Did we estimate it poorly? Or do we miss something in the estimate? Did we forget to put a change order in that we were supposed to? And that's why the hours came in so low. All kinds of, great conversations that you can have right when the project closes. So, and you can have good, help build your team. And we're big on customer service. I know everybody says that it's always been a firm belief of mine that when people call, chat or call with us, that we don't just say, oh, no, you can't do that. We'll say, well, what are you trying to accomplish? What are you looking for? And we'll do our damnedest to, if it doesn't do exactly what you're talking about, to say, oh, but if you go take a look at, this screen, it's got all those details that you're looking for on it. It's just not what you called it, but that I believe is what you're looking for, kind of stuff. Provide a lot of educational content for talking to people about how to use the product, but also about processes and things like we're talking about today. We try to do that on an ongoing basis because I think they're one of the values that we provide is to help. We know something about business. We want to help our customers, and it's selfish. What can I say? If our customers do well, then we do well. So we really care about that.
So I'm gonna put it in the term of blue collars because it's a lot of tech stuff. I know what you guys do, but I know what you do. But for the users, like, well, what does it mean? Basically, there's Walmart and Target. Target's a little bit more high end. You guys are the target for end to end users. When you own a business, there's a lot of tech things you need to do. And if I were, again, going to do my business today, we'd jump on with you guys. And I would hire one individual to handle those things that are doing that. And I know that when we've talked about this, and I don't want this to get longer, but when you talk about, well, I'm hiring, people fear that word because they think I don't have enough money. It's like, no, actually, when you hire someone for something, whether it's social media, you hire the mentor, the coach, they're going to generate more income for you if you do the things that are there. So for reference of Estimate Rocket, when you're allowing, and this is hard for business owners, when you allow a person or third-party application to do the work, you actually see more value out of it in the return. So you have to. You have someone scheduling. You have communication references. So from the contractor side, to dummy it down for us, like, listen, Estimate Rocket's going to let you know what you're bidding. You can put in your hours. You can play with the numbers. I have played with your program. You can put in like, hey, if we did 50 hours on this job, what does that income look like?
Right.
What does this do? Okay, if I have, like a good business owner knows who their best employees are and who their weakest are.
Right.
And if you know how many hours, you can say, hey, look, this is a great job for our mid-level guys and gals. This
Right.
is a high-end job. I need these. Like, don't put yourself in a category of like, I hate, and I use it jokingly, like people like hashtag high-end paint or high-end contract. Fuck you. You're not. You're not. Like, you're not. Because if you were high-end, you wouldn't be working where you're working at. And what I mean by that is you don't have time to post what you're doing because you're focused on that. Like, just like all these mentors, like, hey, if you come with me, I'm going to get you $30,000 in bids. No, you're not. Stop lying. Like,
Right.
use a third-party application, use Estimate Rocket or whatever you find out there, and hire them to take work away from you to bring your team and your self-value.
Yeah.
And it's hard. I know it's hard. I know from the contractor perspective, like, oh man, I don't know if I can pay SMARC $600. I don't know if I can pay them $1,000 or if I can pay them $250.
Right.
Listen, I'm telling you from experience, like we actually use Joyce. That's the company that I use. It was very simplified, extremely.
Yeah.
I still get DMs from people in Joyce like, hey, do you remember that house you did? And like, honestly, even though I'm not painting, to be able to just send an email real quick, like, yep, and Joyce did fuck me over. So you guys are a really bad company. No. So long story real short, they actually let some customers do chargebacks. I allowed them to, I used their third party payment application. Like people could pay a credit card and I got paid. I'm like, hey, this is great. I get it, whatever. I had 2 customers do chargebacks and they allowed it without even letting me know and deducted it from my business account. Not that I didn't have the money in there, but it was like, whoa, hold on. Whoa, you just clusterfucked a whole thing that I was doing.
Right.
Like I got it addressed because my bank rocks, but I was like, hey, because I mean, honestly, if you ever have the situation, DM me and I'll tell you how to help yourself. But basically, you just send your bank the written contract to finalize saying this was done.
Right.
And your banks, if it's a good bank, they're going to give your money back. But what I'm saying is using, I'll go ask Mark because I know the similarities to it is that you're hiring a new employee, but that employee doesn't talk back. And it's not as much as paying them a 40-hour salary, but they're doing more work than what an employee would do.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
But is it
no matter what you choose?
Yeah, no matter what
really,
you choose. Right. I know it's Estimate Rocket on social media. Anything right now you guys have? Are you guys pushing anything on your side or?
Actually, we have right now. If you sign up, we give you 50% off for the first. You get the first month, 30 days free, and then 50% off for the next 2 months for signing up now. The other thing that we have is fun to play with is you go to estimaterocket.com/whatifdownload.
Okay.
And we were talking today about what your rates are and how many people you have and how many hours you're working and all that. It's a really cool, it's a Google sheet. So when you get to the page, you got to give us your info, of course. And when you get to the page, there's a little button on the upper right. It says use template. Once you click that button, it will bring it in. It makes a copy of it into your Google Sheets. So it's all yours at that point. We don't have any access to it. It's, become your own private one. But the cool thing is it's got a bunch of variables in the top and you plug them in and you can see, okay, if I have one person at this charge rate, this many hours a week, month, it has a few inputs, and you can see, oh, that's my potential revenue at that hourly charge rate, this many billable hours, et cetera. And then there's another column for what if, and you can do similar thing. What if I raise my price by $5? What if I add 3 people? And you can just change those values. And in like 2 seconds, you can see, holy shit, if I raise my price by $5 an hour with my 2 people, this actually has a big impact on my revenues for the year. And it's one of those things. It's so easy. It's really, again, there's only a few inputs in it, and you can see those things without like, what am I risking? Oh, $5 an hour. I'm not risking anything. And look the potential it has for increasing my revenue. What if I pay people for 2 weeks? What if I give them 2 weeks paid vacation? You can factor that in. It tells you what effect it has on your revenues and your gross profit. So
No, that's awesome.
It's a
I'll
fun
have to
tool.
go. I'll have to go play with it.
Yeah.
I will tell the blue collar person that's listening to this, even if you're white collar and you just happen to like listening to blue collar people talk the shit. Thank you for listening. But if you don't know, find someone to help you. I know that your guys' customer service is very walkthroughable. You guys walk through them. You guys have a great team behind you. I've met quite a few of them. I say that knowing that I've met a few of them. Like, they're not ever going to look at you like, how do you not know this shit? Because they know they can't go on your job site and pour concrete. They're not going to be able to do 16 on center when they're studding a wall, so find value. It's like this. You're getting hired as a professional, and so hire people who are professionals in what they do. What I will say this though about the what if, I went on and actually looked at it today, and earlier this week before we got on, is on the free down, the what if is like, one of the cool features on there is, let's say you are like on that teetering, like, well, I want to go with estimate, but I don't know if I can afford X price.
Mm-hmm.
Put it in there. Say, hey, if I take 50, like I tell my kid, listen, take $200 out of every paycheck once you start working 40 hours a week and put it away. Invest it, don't touch it, put in 20 different accounts. Yep. So promise you it'll work out. Like, trust me on this.
Yeah.
And one way that's how I paid my workman's comp. That's how we paid a lot of our insurances. I said, okay, here's $300. Like, I would do the bid, but I know your program has the ability to look at this. Like, you do a bid and say, hey man, every month we're getting a bill for workman's comp, and it's like $1,200. Okay, well, hey, if I add $300 to the 7 jobs a month, I now have that money, and it's not coming out of anywhere. And honestly, $300 to a job is not anything. And lastly, I'm going to tell you the last secret. Whatever service you're in, wherever you get your material from, you need to meet with your rep every 6 months and ask for a lower rate. Yeah. The worst thing they're going to do is tell you no, but you now caught your salesman's attention, and they're going to do everything they can to get you better rates. And then when you get lower rates, you don't need to adjust your prices lower.
Right.
You can afford third-party applications. You can afford the social media manager to help manage and show you. I mean, contracts like, why do I need social media? Like, it's a different beast. Every business needs social media, but every business social media would be ran differently. So, well, Tom, I could speak hours with you. It's the first day of school. I got to take they're going to take themselves, but got to kick them out the door and be like, woohoo, senior season. So, no, he's a good kid, man. He's a good kid. Beautiful. I'm actually shocked that I have a senior this year. But it's been a pleasure. I know that I'm going to be on your guys' podcast too. So
cool.
I'm excited. I don't even know what we're going to talk about, but it's always fun. You do know the platform's open to you guys. You're more than welcome to come on when you guys get new programs and new services or new features. Awesome. Come and shoot the shit, because I think just on these 5 questions, each one of these questions could have been like its own hour conversation.
Oh yeah, easily.
it's so hard because we love being businesses, but on the flip side, it's so hard because it's just like a baby or a plant. You have to nourish it and give it so much attention. Yeah. It's extremely hard. So, tell the wife I said hello. It's been a pleasure, and give Chris a high five for me. You got a good man there. He's a good dude.
He's the best. Yeah.
He is.
Good people.
Yeah, they are. Well, Tom, you have a great one. Everyone, I am Splash. We are out, and I will see you guys next week. Have a good one.